Grails is actually sending an event to our plugin saying, okay, do your thing. And it kind of sneaks in and starts up Magnolia. And this is a normal Magnolia installation. If we had done this in any way, other way, we would have had to go like 2 hours before this. Now.
Okay.
So, Magnolia, basic. Nothing extra, it's just the community edition of Magnolia, 4.5.1, costly.
Yeah.
So now we're going to create a template.
Yeah.
The first page. So in Grails, you should have an IDE to help you, but you can do this on command line. Create controller. So we want an article controller where we can show articles. It's the normal Mvc pattern where you have a controller and a view that you render. Basically just like Spring Web MVC. So the template paragraph is the same as the normal Blossom paragraphs or annotations, I mean. So you have to add the ID and a title and render a view. In Grails, you use a view technology called GSP, which is basically JSP but with Groovy instead. It's a bit more powerful, but basically because Groovy is more powerful than Java. Kind of lends itself better to that. There are quite a few tag libs included, the basic things you have in JSTL, and a lot more. So it's kind of, when you're doing a Grails project, you always focus on doing content, on doing things. So
No, there was no restart.
No.
Until now.
Yeah, note that. If you have developed anything in Blossom, you know that you would have restarted now. So, here's our first page. It's not perfect, it's not fancy or anything, but it says hello Basel.
Yeah, I want it bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, now you can actually see it. So, let's do an area. The next step when you're doing templates now in Magnolia 4.5 is to add an area, which is basically what they call the old paragraph systems. It's a list of components. So you had to render the area with the components in it. He added the CMS tag lib too. CMS init is to get the green bar that we all know and love. So in Blossom 2, which is the version we're using, you add an area controller inside the template controller, the page controller. So we're not doing anything fancy here. You can basically do anything in these controllers. There are great dependency injection, a lot of integration libraries, and things that can be used. But in this case, we're just rendering a view. So controllers is where you do the heavy lifting, and we do nothing heavy now. So a GSP for the area. In this case, we'll probably just loop the components, iterate the components and print them inside a div. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just G each. It's more like they have taken a few ideas from Ruby and the other dynamic languages where you say each instead of for loops and while and things. Do this for each item, basically. So the area. We have added the area in the controller, and we need to add it to the actual article GSP. Render it there.
Yeah.
So this is also very Magnolia 4.5, where you have areas containing components. A nice feature about Blossom is that you actually specify which components you want in the area by adding them to the actual controller. Yeah, let's do a box component. Just a tiny nice content box. So components are templates too in 4.5. Or actually, this is a template that renders a component.
Components.
Yeah. So just render a GSP, and this time we probably want a dialogue. It would be infinitely boring if you couldn't add any content to it. So we add a tab. If you don't know how to use Blossom, I suggest you look at the documentation because it's really good. And the templating, it doesn't really differ that much. This is the groovy way of writing Java code, which is basically remove all semicolons and do a little fancy trick. Yeah. So we add a text field for the title and an FCK editor to have some HTML content. And we need a GSP to render it. Well, this should be a lot simpler. Templating is made to match what you do in JSP templating now. So just type out content, title, and content HTML or whatever. The content map is always available in every GSP. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is our component. You add a component to every area you wanted it. So in this case, we only have an area. We only have the main area. You could have an area per column in the page, or anywhere. You can reuse the areas. You can even reuse the GSP, the view rendered by the area. Now this is us not doing what we wanted. So we have to restart here. It's actually the only known bug. The area, or at least the first area, can't be added live. Any changes from now should be without restarts. Actually, this should have been without restart too, but that's just live for you. So, well, I think we have our page, if it feels like. Now we'll see if we actually made any big mistakes. So, our first page, now drum roll.
Whoa.
Boom.
Of course.
Of course. Is this the one with the title? No. Yeah. So, you render the main area. Just go down and check it. And the box controller, box components.
It doesn't have the template.
Okay, let's restart. I think something went wrong. Yeah, this is just to be expected.
Yeah.
We anger the demo gods by actually doing a live demo.
Ska vi ta upp gammal?
What did we miss? The tag lib? The
Jag hittar inte template in registry.
I namnet där. Yeah. No. It was wrong again. Check the log. I think it will probably tell us what we did wrong. Yeah. You actually have to do what Blossom tells you to do. Everything needs a name. And that goes for the titles too on the templates. It's very bad to leave out the title or name. In the article GSP or the view, we render the area with the CMS area tag, and that's the name it matches. So this kind of won't work if we don't have an area called that. Now.
Okay.
Well, if we only did one thing wrong, we should be happy. And ta-da.
Okay.
Now we have the area where we can add our components. We only have one. It's the box. So now we actually have our page. It's not that pretty though, but we're doing the yeah, add another one just for the fun of it. Oh, thank you. So now we'll probably you add one more. We'll try something that's a little nice Grails trick. The Grails is full of these things where you have a lot of tag libs to do basic menial chores that web developers have to do. One of those things are layouts. You can add a layout to the whole page, to specific pages, to the whole website. So we're doing a little copy paste here because it's boring. So we actually change the layout here. It's something they have adapted from SiteMesh, if you know that framework. As you can see now, nothing happened because when you do these layouts, you add them with a meta tag to each specific view you want them in. So you can do a specific layout for certain pages or certain templates in this case. So now, reload. We added Twitter Bootstrap, a very nice CSS framework.
Yeah.
Well, that's about as far as we planned on getting. So we're going to do something we didn't plan.
So now it's just plain Magnolia, done one component, so it's easy to add more areas or components and everything.
You can add as many components as you want. You can add them to the area. You can add them to other areas. You can reuse the view that we did to render the main area in any area because it just renders a couple of components and just copy the area definition in the controller.
Okay.
So we kind of think we have most of the benefits from Blossom, which is the easy integration, the power, and the ability to actually version control our content or our code. So should we do something silly?
Yeah, we do the extra stuff.
We will create a Grails domain class. This is one of the things the Grails give us. It's a complete ORM framework built on top of Hibernate. So you create a domain class, you give them a few properties, and well, there you go. Now we actually have a table. So we can create a controller for it. We want to show this new domain class. We want to edit it, add a few persons to the list. So we have something called scaffolding, which is something they have blatantly stolen from Ruby on Rails. It's where you get the basic CRUD controllers. The basic CRUD controllers for any domain class. So create person kind of figures out.
Oh.
Yeah, it didn't figure out what it had. Yeah, well, maybe we need to reload it. Anyway, it should be able to give us a form. Yeah, we started then.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. It was something very Grailsy. So we get the basic form representation of the objects. We can add a few for development purposes. This is nothing you probably will leave in for production, because everyone will think you made a lousy work. But you can add data for your testing, for your development, for actually basically populating the database and then leaving it out. So this is something we just got for free from Grails. So we have a table in our database called person, which have these 3 persons. So let's do a component that lists everyone. Yeah, and copy paste the template tag or something. Yeah, and the thing about names. Persons. Yeah. So we'll show you the MVC pattern here, where we create a model. Actually, we actually do something in this controller, where we have the list function is added dynamically to the person domain class by Grails. Everything that is a domain class gets a lot of these things, like find, we can do queries, you get a lot of sort and queries, create query, execute query, list. Basically anything you can think of, they actually have there, because they are listening to Ruby again, which kind of says you need to have every method that you intuitively think you should have. So persons. You create a map with persons loaded from the database, and we iterate them and print their names or something. We try to. Yeah, so we probably did nothing wrong there.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, so now we add that component to this area, or any other area we feel like, just by adding the class there. So save, and let's go somewhere. Should be available in this area now. Yeah, person. You could have a description there.
Yeah.
And there they are, the 3 people in our system, in our database.
And no, this time no restart.
Yeah.
Actually. So new table with CRUD functionality and integrated to a component, and that at least just took a few minutes.
I mean, as a basic mock-up or a prototype, this is something you could do while sitting in a boring meeting. And show everyone what you have done. This is one of the main reasons we use Grails. So
should we add the tab factory to that?
Tab factory, a dialog for selecting the person. Yeah, sure.
A new component.
Yeah, we have time left. We talk too fast.
Yeah.
So let's do a component that shows a single person that we select in our dialog, because one of the features of Blossom is to have a dynamic coded dialog. Yeah.
Okay. Jag får nog sno.
Yeah, now you're gonna have to do something weird. So, test 1.
Yeah.
Open recent. since we kind of experimented with this a bit, and we don't want to make any more mistakes, so we're gonna steal this from ourselves. Single person components control. Yeah. Here you'll see something very Grails-like in the tab factory. The tab factory creates the dialog. The dialog gives you a select box with all the persons in the database. By doing list, you get all the persons. But if you want the select to show you the name, but select the ID, you create a map. And here you see some of the functional niceties of Grails. And I know you probably hate it at first glance, but it's quite fancy. After a while, you get very productive with this kind of powerful tool, where you can basically do anything with a collection or a map, or you can create a map from a list, or you can flatten a list of lists, and all these things are built in Groovy. And combine that with all the ORM things that you get from Grails, you can do quite a lot of things with simple domain classes without inventing the wheel every time. So this might work. So we add another component to our area. We move one. Don't want to break the splendid design. So here is a dialog created from backend data, or in this case from database. So, it actually worked.
Yeah, you're 4.
Yeah, I'm 4.
I'm 5.
Yeah, you're kind of old. So, that's about it, I think, from the live coding.
Thanks. What about internationalization support?
Yeah, they have that, of course. It's supported natively by Grails and also Magnolia, so you kind of have your pick. Both work, but I think I would prefer the Grails version. You basically add any message files to a specific config. The thing with code by convention is that you have a certain way of doing things. So if a new Grails developer come to your app, they will know where these things lie. I mean, it's the same thing as in the normal Spring application.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Spring support for that.
Yeah, I18N bundle. So
I also have access to the whole JCR utilities that come with Magnolia out of Grails.
Yeah. For example, the tag libs we use are let's see. These are all the default Magnolia tag libs. So it's not anything created separate for this project. So all Magnolia standard tag libs works. And
in a way, most of the code in our views are basic Magnolia similar code, but with some JSP.
And in the controller, if you access the Magnolia context and everything, you're actually at the same spot in the filter chain as you would in a Blossom Java template. Yeah. So we thought about showing a maglev controller and in Groovy and a Java controller in Blossom and compare them, but it turns out they are like 99% the same. So it's not that makes it's faster, but that could show that it's everything that works in Blossom should work in this as well, with the only difference that it's Groovy instead of Java, but Java syntax compiles in Groovy, so yeah.
You can use your own.
Everything should work.
Yeah. And as far as we know, all Magnolia modules work. We have only tested a few, but yeah.
This is not. It's more about Grails, developing with Grails. Do you also use Maven in your projects, and how?
Grails have historically used Ivy, And Ivy is not my friend, and probably not theirs either. So they're kind of moving more towards Maven. They have support for both, so you can actually, in the build config here, you can specify in which order you want to resolve libraries. So, and since you can actually use Java libraries, basically anything in the Maven repositories is useful here. You can add them. So there you have the Maven central command. And you can have a Maven local, so it looks in your repository first. You can just add them in the order you want, and you can add extra repositories here, Maven repositories. You probably have your own. I mean,
yeah, internally we have our own Maven repository using Nexus, and we store our artifacts in Maven repository since we're Java developers from the start. So we use Maven as much as we can, but we will let Grails build and package the Grails application using Grails' own code. So
end output is basically a Java app. Where you get a war with all the libraries you need.
So you use Maven mainly for dependency management, but not as a build tool.
Yeah, exactly. Grails has support to build with Maven instead, I think, but we don't use it since it's not default. It always tends to work a little bit worse, the default. So yeah, you summarized it good.
So you guys specialize in building shops online. Is there something about shop functionality that drove you to choose this way of working? Can you maybe give use case examples that are easier to do this way that you would have struggled to do with other tools or other methodologies?
I would say perhaps the ability to let an editor choose what products to show. It's very easy. If you have done the whole integration, it's very easy to do components that you maybe have a component to show a single product, you have a component to show a top list. You can in the dialog make parameters to the top list, so the editor can choose which categories should I use in this top list and then move around content like that. So I think it might be the thing with the highly mixed content that makes it suit quite good for that. It's an editor, but the editor doesn't create the product information. So the mix, I would say, suits quite good for e-commerce in this.
E-commerce is also very changing. The web page need to change a lot. You need high velocity and quick iterations. And for us, that means we have several teams and we need to share code. For us, that's important. If you kind of like the traditional Magnolia approach is to create your templates in the repository. That's something you don't share with every other developer of the world. In this way, all the configuration, everything that creates the site is in the code, and the code is easily version controlled and shared, because that's what developers do.
So I've seen that you use Amazon Cloud Services to run your applications. Does Grails somehow support deployment to that to Amazon or other cloud services?
Yeah, we. The question was how it supports cloud deployment.
Yeah, how it supports cloud deployment. It's not.
We kind of built there our own.
Yeah, we deploy it. We deploy it to Amazon. The only problem here is not maybe a problem, but you have to choose how you want to cluster Magnolia. And since it's just a normal complete Magnolia installation, you can choose to have many public instances in one offer. So it's basically deployed in a way that would be a standard Java way. So Grails creates a war file for you, and we run it in Tomcat. And as a backend, the database is MySQL, and it's basically no difference from a Java deployment.
Yeah, we also use a plugin to supply the tier 2 cache for Hibernate with memcached. So we cluster all the caches. So all the instances would have a single cache. So we can take one down, throw it out of the load balancer, and kind of do the ripple thing. Where when you deploy, you take one down, you update it, you start it up, you check that it's live, and you take out the other one and you put it up. And no one should be the wiser because you share everything. We have shared services, we have clustered RabbitMQ, we have clustered Memcache with Couchbase and clustered.
Yeah, and also since it's the sessions is just pure Java sessions, so we have the sessions clustered in Tomcat to Memcached as well. So we get the functionality. We these things we put from the Java community and use the Java community solutions to solve them.
Yeah.
Okay, time's out.